And I was asked by all my coworkers that I'm still friends with some of these guys today. They accused me of going to work for the competition. I said, no, I'm really not. I'm really not. I said, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I said, well, honestly, I'm going to play golf tomorrow. Debbie and I are going to Vegas this weekend. I get back Monday, I'll figure it out. And then Monday, I was in the flipping houses business back before HGTV Cool to do it.
So, Eddie, how did you finance your first deal?
Hard money lender.
What rates
You want me to elaborate on it? Make it interesting?
Give us a little bit more
those
there.
one-word answers. Well, it's June of '99. Dating myself a little bit here, okay? The only advantage I got over the audience is I'm a little more experienced than probably most of them. Most of them probably smarter than me, and that's not meant to be a joke. But, you know, I did not know any better. I remember getting the house under contract in a subdivision called Willowwood at 249 and Beltway 8. Smilingwood Drive was the name of the street. You never forget those things. And I remember going back to my truck after I got the contract signed. It was before I was an agent. I had, obviously, the track form. And I went, yes! And then the next thought was, okay, what do I do now? I honestly did not know the next step to do. I didn't know necessarily to get the contract over to the title company. I didn't know necessarily where am I going to get the funds, okay? And I went through a hard money lender. I'll never forget it. It was 16 and 7/8% and 1 point for a year to keep the usury or keep the interest rate below the usury of 18%. And I paid 16 and 7/8 and 1 point to a hard money lender out of Dallas, Texas, that I had met through a meeting, probably was the Rich Club. I'm pretty sure it was the Rich Club, because it was the first meeting I ever went to, which was held back in those days, Saturdays at the Hilton on the University of Houston campus, for those that remember. And got a referral to a title company, took a Texas American Title up on 1960, handed them the contract. We tried to hand it to another title company, and I've never been one to throw mud publicly, so I will not name that title company. But they looked at me and go, "No, we don't want that. You're a flipper wholesaler. We don't want your business," and that's the truth. And so I took it to Texas American Title, and that started a long-term relationship with Texas American Title, and my guy out of Dallas funded it for me.
Love it, love it. So, back to getting my sequencing in. We need to do a little introduction first. I think we skipped a step. Well, tell folks about you and what you do and your background.
I moved to Dallas, Texas when I was 20 years old. I was going to school at Mississippi State, majoring in civil engineering, living in a fraternity house, and I partied all the time. And I was not eligible to go back in school for the fall. So I needed an excuse not to be back in school. So I moved to Dallas, Texas, and I was planning to come out for the summer or so, and never went home. And I went back to school at University of Texas, Arlington, finished up my civil engineering degree in Dallas-Fort Worth, went into the power plant business, soon moved over to the refinery business, and I did concrete and steel work for 16 years out here on the ship channel. That's what brought me to Houston, was the ship channel. And I walked into my job in that June of '99, and I quit. And I was asked by all my coworkers that I'm still friends with some of these guys today. They accused me of going to work for the competition. I said, no, I'm really not. I'm really not. I said, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I said, well, honestly, I'm going to play golf tomorrow. Debbie and I are going to Vegas this weekend. I get back Monday, I'll figure it out. And then Monday, I was in the flipping houses business back before HGTV Cool to do it, you know. For those of you who remember the old country song, I was country when country wasn't cool. I was flipping houses before flipping houses was cool, and that's what did it. And I bought the house on Smilingwood over there. Then it started.
Love it, love it. Brent, tell folks a little bit about you and then how you financed your first deal.
Yeah, so, I can go. Eddie's busy. Brent by his house. So, long story short, I bought my first deal also with hard money. Now, kind of reverse the story a little bit. After, high school, I wasn't going to go to college. The word college never came up in my household. Nobody ever went to college, never ever talked about that. So I moved to Dallas because I grew up in Dallas, went to high school in Houston. I packed my bags the day after graduating, and parents said, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I ain't got nothing else, so I'm going to go back home. I'm going to go back to Dallas with, some of my buddies from growing up." And I got a job loading trucks in a warehouse, and it was horrible. And I did that for 6-7 months and talked to some of my buddies, and they were going to college and doing this and this and that. I wanted to go in the military. I couldn't get in. I had multiple injuries and issues. So I ended up going to college, went into law enforcement, ultimately, and did that for about 7 years. And I just didn't fit in after we had a new change with our chief and the politics game. We had our first child, and I said, just told my wife, I can't do this. I can't play the politics anymore, So got a corporate job, and some of y'all have heard the story before. I got a corporate job, and I was not excited about that, but I'm like, maybe the grass is greener. Come home from the corporate job. My wife's happy because I'm not, a police officer. I'm working nights and doing whatever I do as a police officer, and she comes home. I come home from work that first day at corporate America, and she's like, "Babe, how was it?" And she's got a nice dinner cooked and all that. And I remember just sitting there, I'm like, I think I hate it. Yeah, pretty sure I hate everything about it. But I'll do it, but I'm going to figure something else out. So long story short, it took me about 4 years to figure something else out. I spent a couple years getting suckered into the trap a little bit, right, of being comfortable and like, I can, kind of just sacrifice dreams and goals and kind of get sucked in, right, like my father did, to be quite frank, And but I fought it, and so I started doing research. I went to the bookstore. And for you young kids out there, that's like, it was a building and they actually sold books in it. And you had to pick them up and read them. You didn't listen to it or watch it on a video or something. It's an amazing thing. And so the funny thing is my wife and I, we had just finished paying off like student loans, and we had credit cards. We had no idea about finances, and we had got to a place so we got to a place where we had no money. And so that was good because we also had no, debt. And I remember it was kind of a funny story. I saw a Robert Allen book, No Money Down, back then. And I'm like, that's right, that's talking to me because I have no money. And then I read Robert Kiyosaki, and I also read a personal development book by a guy by the name of Tony Robbins. Okay? So the funny, getting into the answer to the question how I did my first deal was I go into January 2007, and my wife and I live in an apartment, no money, and I went to Rich, and I went to Lifestyles Unlimited, and came home, reading my Tony Robbins book, reading the Kiyosaki stuff, and I told my wife I'm going to buy 10 rental properties this year, and she's asking, how in the hell are you going to do that? We don't have any money. You've never done any real estate. You never had a business. What are you smoking here? And so I went and got a poster board, put it on the wall of our apartment. I drew 10 squares in. I said, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure it out. Found a wholesaler, met a wholesaler at Rich. We're still friends to this day. I probably bought 75 houses from this guy. Found me a deal. I met a hard money lender at the event. One of your friendly competitors. It wasn't Eddie. Could have made you a lot of money if I had seen you at the event. But anyways, I got this deal under contract, and just like Eddie, I said, how in the heck am I going to pay for this thing? So I had a credit card that we just paid off. You guys know those credit card checks they send you? So I had a $14,000 limit, and I talked my hard money lender in, to like taking I put $7,000 down. He financed the rest, and you talk about, I was a nervous, ball of stress, but I was super clear with my contractors and blah, blah, blah. We got that deal renovated, tenant in it, and leased before my first payment was due. And, and I talked him into holding collateral, like a check, like real money, on one of my credit card checks is what I mean, real money, because I cashed it and gave it to him. And he gave me 100% financing the rest of the year, and did 10 rentals, refinanced them, and that's how I got started, year one. And I worked about 180 hours a week that year too.
And I love hearing those stories. I really do.